Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smart, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smart has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be relent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a microlender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Well, good day, everyone. My name is Gerald Leonard, and today I have with me Mike Starr. He is an adventurer at heart. He loves exploring and going where few have gone. While studying at Carnegie Mellon University, he and a friend canoed 54 days from Pittsburgh to New Orleans. And the next year, he hitchhiked and bused for 4 months through the United States, Mexico, and Guatemala, living, get this, on $3 a day. Mike, how are you?
Doing great. It's an honor to be with you, Gerald.
Same here. I'm really happy to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to our conversation, especially about your book. So, Mike, how did you get started in all that you've done and writing your book, Journey into Peace, and the things that you've done? How did you get started?
I think my beginning really had to do with being better. And I think that started, believe it or not, in my senior class play, which, by the way, I was voted the best actor in way back in 1968. And it was a play called Cheaper by the Dozen, and I played the son Bill. And one of the things that was intriguing as we, practiced, rehearsed the play is seeing that the father was an efficiency expert. He was really kind of obsessed with finding the most effective way to do things. And I think to a large degree that kind of got my curiosity up of how do we get better and continue to get better, because golly, it's fun getting better.
Yes, exactly. So what do you think is poorly understood about productivity, efficiency, getting better?
I think there's a tendency, in my opinion, to view productivity as some kind of corporate evil or some kind of capitalist negativity. But, what is productivity but being efficient and reducing waste and empowering people to be part of the team? I mean, I love this country. I love the premise of our entrepreneurial spirit, our capitalism, our ability to be innovative. And I think there is an understanding to think that productivity is some kind of negative thing, when in the end, it's a win-win. Productivity is reducing waste of energy, waste of resources, waste of time, waste of money. Who couldn't be in favor of getting rid of waste? And we use less energy, less money, and it frees us up to do other things as well. Frees up our minds and our initiatives to move forward. And I was so excited when I met you at the interview with the Publicity Summit, and you were a productivity, I guess, guru, someone who really promoted that. I love that. To me, improving productivity is like just it's a one wonderful thing to for business and also in our personal lives. If we improve our personal productivity, we live within our resources, we have more time to have fun, we don't waste energy, and most of all, we don't waste our emotions.
Exactly. And I think that, what's poorly understood as well is that many times people think of productivity and they think of just getting more done, spending more time, and kind of burning the candle at both ends. And that's really the opposite of productivity. It's really learning how to be the most efficient and effective and productive using the least amount of resources and using the least amount of our energy. And if we're really productive, and that's really the essence of the podcast, Productivity Smarts, is if we're really productive, we will have a better life, we'll have better health, we'll have even better mental health and clarity. So Mike, tell us your story. Like I know you got started, you were a part of a play that piqued your interest, but how did you get from that point to where you are today?
Well, I got drafted into the Army. I was one of the last people drafted in the United States, December 1972, draft number 73, and joined the Navy as an alternative to the Army. And while I was in boot camp, I interviewed for the nuclear power program because I had a degree in electrical engineering at the time from Carnegie Mellon. Ended up with an interview with Admiral Rickover in Washington, D.C. It was a successful interview, got involved in actually running operating a nuclear submarine, and I saw the value of process, the value of standards. I mean, if there's any place that has zero tolerance for mistakes, it would be a nuclear submarine. You've got a nuclear reactor. We had 200 hydrogen bombs on board. We have over 100 sailors on board as well, and any one person could sink the ship.
Right.
So it's critical that standards and best practices were clear. Then I went on into business, worked in Ford Motor Company for a while with the heavy truck division, but spent most of my time in the railroad, initially writing standards and developing processes and procedures for both repairing and remanufacturing. And then the preponderance of my career was out in the field managing a manufacturing facility and maintenance facilities as well. So that was kind of a bit of how it all progressed. But along the way, I guess I've had this romance with getting better and making things more efficient. And I mentioned this earlier, one of my secret formulas for improvement, we did a 60% improvement over 2 years on our $100 million a year production line, really boiled down essentially to asking a very simple question. Met with key employees in different work groups. How can I make your job easier?
Wow.
And by answering those questions, posting them and showing the results of doing that, we solved or resolved about 300 out of 330 items. Employee engagement improved, safety, quality, productivity, and we ended up being more competitive with other organizations we were working against. It was a win-win-win, but a very simple thing. How can we make your job simpler? And it goes back to what you said. One at the core of productivity is making things simple. I have a term in my book called MISS, make it simple and streamlined. I don't like the word KISS.
Right. Yeah, I saw that statement where you said, I like to miss, not kiss.
Exactly.
Something like that in your book. Speaking of your book, let's go ahead and dive in because I had a chance to, peruse the book, identify some questions from a lot of the content, and you have a lot of stories, a lot of intriguing stories about, climbing Kilimanjaro and things you did in the military and just things that you've done throughout your life that you've integrated it. So it's an amazing book with some amazing stories, but you also have some really neat processes. And one of the things you talk about in the book is called The Journey into Peace, right? And one of the things you talk about right up front is this concept of betterism. Can you explain that? What is betterism and the concept of destination and the journey?
Betterism is a term I've coined. I think other people may have used it in other contexts. It's about the pursuit of being better, seeking more good and less bad. I began my journey about 25 years ago to reduce conflict and suffering and improve harmony and peace of mind and the achievement of sustainable results, both because of turmoil in my family as well as turmoil in the business that I was working with at the time. Yeah. In betterism, it takes into account that, there's a saying, I've climbed the ladder of success only to reach the top and realize my ladder was against the wrong wall. And I think that's a rather sad commentary about one's life, and I disagree with the conclusion, because often our destinations can be a multitude of destinations. I don't think the destinations are too often chosen incorrectly, but I think the journey often is not done in a way where we nurture healthy relationships, we nurture our health, we nurture our finances, and we nurture the people around us, the team members, so that they feel loved and respected and important. So I've kind of said that a goal is equal to the journey plus the destination, and one without the other is meaningless. The destination gives context to the journey, and the journey is the real meaning that we have in our day-to-day life. And so betterism is just that whole philosophy of getting better, and it begins, and I could go on, but just to kind of hit to what I think is the key of it, it begins with something I call the EBC symbiotic 3, okay. Is to have, E is for empathy. Understand that given the circumstances of someone's birth, their DNA, their socioeconomic status, their geography, their era, they could not help becoming who they became. I don't care if you're Mother Teresa or Genghis Khan. It was inevitable they became who they became. So it is with the circumstances around us. And when we see the world in that regard, it diffuses anger, upsetment, and frees us up. As the Borg said in Star Trek The Next Generation, resistance is futile. When it comes to reality, resistance is futile. It's the definition of insanity. And so with the natural order things, I call it Newt, the natural order things, we make this peace with, we have empathy for people. I discount the word forgiveness and replace it with understanding. So E is for the empathy. B is for wise boundaries. Think through what our boundaries are, because once you have empathy, you're not angry, you're not drama-filled, you're just like objective. Then you set your boundaries. When this is happening, this is what I'm going to do. And then the consequences, or what I call dispassionate consequences, you just put them in play. I have terms called states of being. One is be the umbrella opener. If you're walking down the street and you're carrying an umbrella, it starts to rain. Do we shake our fist at the sky? Do we get angry? Or do we just open the umbrella and keep on going? And so it is with our dispassionate consequences. Begin with empathy, diffuse all the drama and the finger pointing and the could have, should haves, and then go on to setting boundaries with consequences. And that's kind of the essence of betterism. It's just like knowing that tomorrow's going to be a little bit better than today, and focus not on, I don't like the word change, I like the word improve. Focus on improving. I don't necessarily go into solving, but mitigating issues. And if we approach things from mitigation, if we approach things in terms of improvement, we're going to win.
Yes. Yes. I love this idea of betterment, and especially the destination and the journey, because I think for goal setters who are real, focused on the goal of getting to a place, it can be very disappointing that once you get to that place, especially if you did not enjoy the journey.
It's a hollow victory.
It is. It is. Because you get there and you go, and I think, when I think about, I did my bachelor's and master's in music, and I still I'm a part of the music industry and writing books and all the other things that I'm doing. And I think when people get to a place where they accomplish their main goal and they go, "Is this it?" It's like they missed the boat of what the goal was all about. Because
exactly,
goal setting is about who do I have to become to achieve this goal, and what's the process I'm going to go through in that journey. And so that, I talk about it on my TEDx, where I talk about what a practice of performance and the idea of musicians. Professional musicians who are constantly working all the time are really on stage only 5% of their lifetime. The majority of the time, they're in practice. They're in the journey. So as a musician or as a craftsman, if you're not enjoying the journey, then at the end of the day, life sucks.
It does. I mean, look at Hemingway, accomplished author, and he committed suicide. I mean, how many people do we know that have accomplished great things and their personal life was in shambles? People are important. Our relationships are important. Our health is important. You know, that old saying, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I don't know ever came up with that saying, which is kind of ridiculous. I'm kind of like, have your cake, have your ice cream, eat it too, have fun, and wear a party hat. You know, that's kind of my philosophy. Let's do it all. And so we owe it to ourselves to make sure we don't lose sight of what's really important in life. And I work with my clients in the coaching business to help them develop their 10 convictions so they have clarity about what's important, what's not important. So as they determine their goals, they do it in a holistic way, and they're not into some kind of cognitive dissonance where their behavior is not in alignment with what they believe, and just, if I could add to that, I think really important, not only as a business leader, but as a community leader, as a family member, it's just so important to like yourself. It is so critical to like yourself. Well, why do we dislike people? I contend we dislike people by and large because of their behavior. Maybe they're rude, maybe they're loud, maybe there's something about their behavior that we don't like about them. And I think it's true of ourselves. When we don't like ourselves, often it's about our behavior. So if we're clear about what's important, we keep doing the right thing in alignment with our convictions, we like ourselves. If my wife was here right now and you said, Karen, who's Mike's very best friend? She wouldn't hesitate. She'd say Mike is. There's no hesitation in her mind, because I've always liked myself, because I've really striven to live with integrity. When I find out that I made a mistake, I use it as a learning experience for growth, legs. If I've had an omission and I have character defects and I realize them, I put them on the table, and there's something that I work on, like, just things that even I continue work on today.
Exactly. So let me go to the next question. So, as I was going through the book, you mentioned golden keys and silver keys in states of being. Can you describe what's the difference between the golden keys and the silver keys?
Sure. Let me just back up. My book, Journey into Peace, A Language for Peace, Progress, and Healing, is about the realization on my part that embedded in our everyday words are self-fulfilling prophecies. And it's not necessarily just choosing words. It's some words are dangerous, some words are useless, and some words need to be invented. I've actually invented some words. And so language, from a linguistic point of view, has a lot of value in helping us achieve things important. There's an esoteric term called, manifest something. Well, manifesting things really goes back to using language as a vehicle for us to think in a healthier way. And so there's wise, empowering language, there's dangerous language, there's useless language, and there's these states of being, like be the umbrella opener, or be the stream, which be the stream means stay moving, stay in motion. As long as you're moving forward, you're making progress. Be that kind of person. When it comes to forgiveness, I say be the exorcist and exorcise the demon within you that has to do with harboring animosity, and do that through understanding. Golden keys are the fundamental words that I use. They're sort of like the foundation, like betterism, like newt, the natural order things, like lear, legitimate, empowering, alternate realities. And then the silver keys are words that add on to those, that help us clarify things a little bit better, like using improve versus change.
Gotcha. I had a chance to meet, study with, learn from a lady named Judith Glazer before she passed away from cancer. And she wrote the book Conversational Intelligence. And so I was reading your book, it reminded me of some of the concepts because she had a statement that would say, our words create our worlds. Words
Absolutely.
create our worlds. And, you know, I've also, I love reading. And so a book, I don't remember the author's name off the top of my head right now, but the name of the book is The Molecules of Emotions. And one of the things that that the doctor spoke in that book, wrote about, was that every single thought that we have is creates an electrical impulse, which then creates a corresponding neuropeptide that our body begins to crave if we use it over and over again. And so every word, as you're saying, every word that we use has a signature neuropeptide that if we keep using those words, our bodies crave those words. Our bodies craves the emotions or the neuropeptides that those words create, because those words create energy. They manifest into a molecule of energy. So if we're using good words, we're creating positive neuropeptides. If we're using negative words about ourselves or others, we're creating negative neuropeptides. Then our bodies either get addicted to the positive words that we say or the negative words that we say. And then we can even see it on people's faces, because we can tell when someone's living in positivity, that they're living in abundance, or living in with the golden words, as you would say, are the golden keys or the silver keys, and not in the negative state. Do you know what I mean?
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I contend you improve your language, you improve your thinking. You improve your thinking, you improve your perception of the reality around you. As you improve the perception of the reality around you, you make better decisions and you respond better to what's going around you. And you're right, it can, success breeds success, and sometimes failure breeds failure. And so if we're in a state of empowerment, if we're in a state of encouragement, if we're a state of optimism and believing in other people and their potentiality, that's a cool place to be. I feel so sad. I see so much I guess I call them contra identities in the book. It's where people define themselves in opposition to somebody else. I'm good because you're bad. I'm smart because you're stupid. And people are so easily offended and unwilling to engage in civil discourse. It's not a healthy state that many folks are in today, particularly young people.
Right. Exactly. Now, you also talk about the natural order of things. Can you exapolate on that, or explain that a little bit more?
I'd say that's really kind of very much at the core of my book. Is I used to be a practicing Christian. I'm not anymore, but I have a lot of high regard for Christian religion. And there's part in the Bible that says Christ is on the cross, and he says, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And it's not so much about the first part, which says forgive them. It's more about the second part, says for they know not what they do. Newt is the natural order of things. It says that it was inevitable that people would become as they became. If your family member is an alcoholic, which I've gone through, it was inevitable. If you were really to study the background of their childhood and their bringing and their DNA, if even one of your members of family has got some involvement in mental health issues, which I'm familiar with NAMI. I'm very active in the National Alliance of Mental Illness as well as Al-Anon. It's inevitable that things became as they became. And people can't help being who they are. There's a reason why they became the way they did, maybe not a good reason. And it is so freeing not to get angry, not to demonize, not to put them down, and just see them for who they are. Right. And then that allows us to put into effect the boundaries and consequences where it's necessary, because then we can dispassionately see, hey, here's a problem. This person tends to be this way, and we may want to minimize our contact with them. In the most extreme of cases, we'll get a divorce, or we quit our job, which hopefully is a minimal amount of time. But you just see it in a clear way, and there's no need for getting involved in right fights. It's about doing what's wise and most effective.
Gotcha. Now, you also mentioned in the book LEAR, legitimate, empowering alternative realities.
Imagine, I'm 73 and I've been around a long time, and I've seen a lot in TV, especially the Twilight Zone. Loved the Twilight Zone. That was kind of like a big thing for me back then. And one of those many episodes in the Twilight Zone were these alternate realities where they'd see one thing and then they'd wake up and it's like a whole different reality from what they imagined. And my contention is that in many cases, not all, if we begin with empathy and we seek to understand and we have an open mind about possibilities, we can see another reality. Covey talks about in his book, he's on a subway train, father comes on a train with these kids, they're out of control, they're making noise, and Covey's like tired, and he's like goes up to the father and he says, man, could you like rope these kids in a little bit, get them under control? And the father looks up and he says, man, I'm sorry, their mother just died a few hours ago, and I guess we just don't know what to do. So in a matter of seconds, Covey's reality changed from here's a father who can't manage his kids with a bunch of jerky kids to, wow, here's a very troubled family dealing with a tragedy. So often in life, there are empowering alternate realities to what we see. You know, like the old saying, we never know what struggles other people are going through. Give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't know what burdens they are carrying and the crosses they bear. And I think it's a healthy and empowering way to have not only hope, but to treat other people.
Yeah. I love that story from Stephen Covey, because as you were kind of reiterating what he said there, I could just visualize as I've read the book and listened to the book of that story. And when I've listened to the book, you know, he does it in a way where the guy kind of takes a deep breath, right? And it says, you know, their mother just died. And
exactly.
You see the shift right there, because, you know, those words of their mother dying really just kicks in. And now Covey can relate that, okay, this is not a bad family. They have just found themselves in a really tragic situation, and they're trying to figure out how to deal. The kids are trying to figure out how to deal. And he's, you know, and so he becomes a lot more compassionate and forgiving and just understanding because of those words. And so I think that's a very powerful concept. And so many of the things that people are going through now, and why they think the way they think, we have to give them that grace, if you will.
Exactly. Have that understanding.
Exactly. And so one of the other questions I had was why begin with empathy, but I think I understand that now because you explained it quite a bit. But if there's anything else you want to add to why begin with empathy?
Because it diffuses drama,
yes,
and it puts us in a position of understanding in an objective way and makes us open to more effective communication.
Exactly. And then you talk about the concept of autopilot with habits and routines.
Well, when we were working on the production line with this $100 million a year production line, we ran 3 shifts. We had over 150 people working the line, different parts of the tearing things apart, putting things back together, bringing things in from all kind of vendors, from Poland to Canada. We had engines coming in and all kind of stuff. And it was really, really important that we had a process, we had routine. And so we did things like visual management. So before I'd go home, I'd look out in the shop. I could see the generator was there and other things were there. So the more that we have well-defined processes and ongoingly improving these processes and routines, the simpler everybody's life is, whether it's a simple process at home, like doing your bills twice a month, or a more complex process like we had a meeting daily on the production line where we would met with vendors. We reviewed the lead times up to 2 weeks in advance. We had spreadsheets of where is the engine that's coming from Europe? You know, how far is it going to be here? Because we had a lot of just-in-time inventory. You can't have a $250,000 piece of equipment, a huge inventory. You would just have basically 2 or 3 days supply. It just frees us up. It's like my saying of make it simple and streamlined. It takes effort. We have to work at it. And I always told my daughter, you have to work hard at making things simple. And once you have it in place, in a lot of ways, you can kind of just stand back, and then you're just managing the little exceptions, and you don't have as much chaos and craziness. I used to call setbacks and problems friends, and I would come in the morning, and I had a general foreman who came in much earlier than me, like 4:30 in the morning. I'd be in at 6 or 6:30, and he'd say, Mike, I said, what's up, Ray? He goes, we got lots of friends today. But we worked on them on an exception basis rather than, it happened day in, day out.
Firefighting, exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
When you have that mindset of, making it streamlined, right? You are constantly improving and tweaking. And what happens is that you get out of firefighting. Companies where there's a lot of firefighting, it's there, we'll stop when we run out of gas kind of thing, instead of just building in the process to, get gas along the way and do the right things and maintain the vehicle and so on. They're waiting till the moment things break down. But if you're in a state of constantly looking at how can we make things better, streamline them, improve the process, tweak it a little bit, and having that open dialogue, it makes life and systems and processes run so much more smoother.
So true. And, Gerald, it's not just true in business, it's true in our families. I mean, how often do we wake up one day and the wife says, I want a divorce? Or how often do we wake up one day and the son says, hey, I've been doing heroin for a while? Because we've lost touch. We haven't maintained a dialogue. We haven't been working on those, let's go out and have date night. We haven't been working on keeping up the dialogue. And, I mean, there is a downside to making things streamlined and simple and automatic. And the downside is not as much drama. So if you're a drama queen, you're going to be disappointed because it starts to get a little boring, which for me, I crave boring at this stage of my life. I don't want chaos. I mean, the less chaos, the better. But some people, they almost like create their own chaos subconsciously because they enjoy firefighting.
Yeah. Well, but remember what I said about the molecules of emotions. We can get addicted to the chaos, and our body literally we crave when things are in disarray. It's like, oh, now I'm excited because I got the juice that I needed.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the juice you really want to live by. All right. So the last question I had was, what is the GPS for peace and progress that you talk about in the book? The GPS. And I think it's probably tied to your convictions.
I feel that. And when I work with my coaching clients, that's one of the first things we begin in parallel with identifying which one or two areas they want to focus on. But what we do is we talk about what's important in life. I kind of impose upon them the first one, which is be your word. My word is my bond. I'm discerning about new commitments I make. I impose that on them, but then they come up with the rest. Because then you have, I mean, now in a world that is less spiritual than ever, which I think is not a good thing, in a world that there is, I think in some cases, almost diabolical efforts to confuse people and create division, it's hard to know what's right and wrong, and I don't want to get into the whole politics, but someone once said, if you can get people to believe in absurdities, you can get them to commit atrocities. And so I think it's so important to have some clarity about some basics, what's important, what's valuable, so that you can live in alignment with them. And so I work with my clients. It usually takes a couple of months, and we talk about them one at a time. So give it some thought this week. Why is that important? Why do you think that's important? I don't guide them. I question, come up with the why. It might be something like, I've got some in front of me right now. Fun. I seek adventure, big or small, planned or spontaneous. Contribution. I serve and empowers others and myself. What are those 10? And often it turns into 11 or 12 of, convictions, and they become your sword, they become your shield, like they say in the law profession, but they also become your GPS. So when you go to make a decision, your decisions are within the context of these well thought out convictions or values, and there's no cognitive dissonance. One of my chapters is stop second guessing, and part of not second guessing is living within your convictions and in your principles. And you know that at the time it was the wisest decision you could make. You can't forecast the outcome, but you certainly could say, I gave it the best choice and decision I could at the time. And there's a lot of peace in knowing that.
Exactly. Great stuff. Again, it's a really, really good book. And I want you to do one thing before we wrap up here. And I ask you to let people know where they can learn more about you. Is in the book, you had a really intriguing story about climbing Kilimanjaro. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, could you share a little bit about that?
Well, when I was getting ready to retire, and I actually worked about 6 years longer than I had to because I enjoyed working. And then there was a balance between how much fun could I have if I'm not working as opposed to being at work, because generally work was fun for me, especially in the last 5 years or so. And I decided I wanted to do the goal, where you have the journey and the destination. And so I said, okay, I'll go to Everest Base Camp. And I thought about that, and I said, I don't know, the Kilimanjaro seems so much cooler. The snows of Kilimanjaro. It's the single largest mountain in Africa. It stands alone. It's like, and then you're there. And I actually went on a safari in the Serengeti when I was there. So I spent a year preparing for the climb. It was a 10-day climb up and down the mountain. You were at like 19,300 feet, 50% oxygen. And but for a year of preparation, it was so much fun. My wife and I, we flew to Flagstaff, Arizona, and climbed to Humphreys Peak, because the highest peak in Arkansas was like 2,000 feet. So we went up to about 12,000 feet. I would go hiking 3 times a week. I was getting Amazon orders in 4 or 5 times a week. I was meeting with people, watching YouTubes. It was just exciting, the excitement and thrill and the anticipation of that journey. I went and saw the doctor. The heart doctor gave me a clear diagnosis, found out I didn't have a hernia. I had a double hernia, had that taken care of. So I was in good shape. And I had this whole team of people with equipment and doctors and specialists and friends. It was just a thrill. And I'm going to tell you, Gerald, when I landed in Kilimanjaro Airport, it was about midnight at night. And I remember walking out of the building, because I had to walk to the escort fellow who was getting ready to kind of show me, take me to the hotel and all that. And I said to myself this: let the games begin. I'm ready. It's done. So I hadn't even begun climbing the mountain, but as far as I was concerned, I was done. I was ready. I did the preparation. I was just ready to go live the climb up the mountain. And I managed to get up there of my own volition, up and down, and I had some great support with the guide and the group. And not everybody made it. We had some people had to be evacuated by helicopter because of height sickness, etc. But I succeeded. But as far as I was concerned, when I landed in the airport, I had succeeded because the process had been followed, and I was about as prepared as I could be. And it was just a cool experience and a fun thing to kind of say, hey, I did that.
And what's really neat about the way that you went about doing it is that you didn't wait to get to the mountain to feel the experience of climbing the mountain, right? You didn't wait to get to the mountain, because you spent preparing and visualizing yourself and all the things that you went through and enjoying that process. And I just think, for so many of us, that's the route we need to take. And that's why I wanted you to tell that story, is I believe that that's the route we need to take with any goal we set, is that the goal itself isn't just the end all be all. It is the process, because who did you have to become to get to that point where you look forward to walking up that mountain, standing on it and walking back, and you didn't have to be airlifted out.
No.
You were able to come out on your own.
The goal is the excuse for living the good life. And in my preparations, I included my wife, who was a great part of the team, and so many other folks. So yeah, it was like a community thing. So yeah, it gives context to your daily life. Now, if you live your daily life and you don't have any destinations, that's not healthy either, because then it becomes like wandering around in circles. I call it waiting to die. So I always have, and so when you get done climbing a mountain, there's another adventure. So, I want to go to Patagonia and go hiking in Patagonia after dancing the tango in Buenos Aires with my wife. So that's coming up next year. So always something.
We're meant to grow and expand and continually experience this life that we've been given. And so with that being said, Mike, where can people learn about you?
Well, the book is in paperback and on Kindle, Journey into Peace, A Language for Peace, Progress, and Healing. So you can get that on Amazon. My coaching business, which I do consulting, I do personal coaching, I do family coaching, I do workshops, a whole bunch of things, is on my website, www.executivecoachingservices.net. That's www.executivecoachingservices.net. And you can learn a little bit more about some of my other strange things I've done, like 54 days going downriver.
Exactly. Mike, this has been a pleasure. It's been a great conversation, and I was really looking forward to our talk as I've read through your book, and it did not disappoint at all. So thank you so much for chiming in and wanting to be a guest on the podcast. And thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome, and it's been fun.
If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.